at this point, I'll read these, and if you want to think about, I talked about this conceptual map, exploring the multiple dimensions, and if you want to think about some of that while I read these off, it might be helpful, I don't know. We were unable to predict the next verbal attack or punishment. There was often a sense of dread in the air. We were at the mercy of the program staff. We were forced to make public confessions and reveal personal secrets that were humiliating. The authority of the program staff was absolute. If a punishment was unfair, there was nothing you could do or say about it. We had to be careful about our sense of humor, our creative expressions, and our individual style. We always had to be in line with the values of the program. Even residents who were in favor with the program, staff, had to keep proving their sincerity. They were still subject to unfair or surprising punishments. We were rewarded for enforcing the wishes of the program staff, even if they were things that made no sense or hurt our peers. Even on the best days, there was a good chance that someone would be subjected to public humiliations, verbal attacks, or forced confessions. We weren't free to make phone calls or write to people. When we did, we had to be careful about what we said for fear of punishment. No one in the outside world really knew what it was like in the program. There were certain people we were forbidden to talk to and make eye contact with. We used special words and phrases that seemed strange at first. The outside world wouldn't understand their meanings. We were constantly urged to be more honest. Even small omissions of the truth or white lies were punished. We were expected to police each other daily. In order to earn basic privileges, we had to confront our peers according to the wishes of the program staff. In order to be allowed to talk to our parents or guardians, we first had to prove ourselves to the program. For months at a time, we weren't allowed to read the newspaper, watch TV, choose our own books, or choose our own music. We were expected to be perfectly submissive to those in power, but real submission often came only after a person really hit a breaking point. Being transported there and being introduced to the culture of the program was overwhelming and shocking. We always had to learn more and more about the program philosophy or religion. Doubting it was punished. The more you resisted it, the more pressure there was to learn and accept it. We weren't allowed to keep special things from our lives before the program. Several important possessions, like pictures, mementos, and favorite clothes, were forbidden or destroyed. There was only one way. Everybody had to go through the same process. It was basically one size fits all. Ties with people in the outside world were forcibly broken, even people we loved dearly. The program rules or staff made most of the decisions about our clothes and physical appearance. We had to do things to each other or with each other that the outside world would find bizarre. Until we showed compliance with the program, we weren't allowed any privacy at all. There were some things we weren't allowed to talk about. There were punishments for mentioning certain words or subjects that were normal in the outside world. Residents who doubted the perfection of the overall philosophy or religion of the program were punished, even when they expressed their doubts gently and genuinely wanted to understand. The program demanded a total personality or spiritual transformation. Just changing a little bit was not good enough. Privileges were earned and awarded by pleasing the program staff, but not automatically. Even if you did everything right, the staff could still deny them. We all witnessed or experienced psychological, physical, or sexual abuse every day. These included deprivations of food, sleep, and medical care. In general, the program staff justified harsh treatment, saying it was a form of love, that it was for our own good, or that it was God's will. Being allowed time to joke around or to just hang out was a special privilege. Privacy in the bathroom was considered a privilege. Sometimes residents were prevented from using the bathroom. We had to engage in repetitive or monotonous activities to the point of exhaustion basically every day. In general, residents eventually seemed to find a sense of meaning and purpose when they began to comply with the commands of the program staff, even if it meant agreeing to do things that seemed wrong at first. If I had told my parents or guardians what was really going on, they would not have believed me. Every once in a while, someone really snapped and tried to seriously injure or kill themselves or someone else. Sometimes we were commanded to make eye contact with those in a position of power, even when we didn't want to. Occasionally, we were surprised with something special, like a game, a movie, or an extra treat. So reading those things, you can kind of go back in your mind the definition of psychological abuse, institutional abuse, characteristics of initiation ordeals, characteristics of brainwashing, cultic dynamics. That's where I got these survey factors. And I've never read them out loud all at the same time like that. And I found it very kind of profound to read it as just a statement. So as I mentioned, 30 of those statements, the first 30 I read, were 95% true, according to my survey. And that's what you have here. Those factors all work together. I'm going to turn this back around. So the factors on the back, the very specific, this is the concrete, this is the abstract. These things back here, what's going on, are represented here, symbolically. And I refer to it as a web. There's a saying, if you pluck a strand of the web, the whole web shimmers. One of these factors, it's, one of these at a time, it's like, okay, no big deal. Take 30 of these factors, and what you have is an inescapable web. And if we go back to that quote by Edgar Schein, just to survive the inflexible environment, a person will change. Go to the next slide. Is this the slide I'm on? Okay. Implications and reflections. Many of these factors are potentially harmful, even as single isolated events. Taken together, they are compounded and are likely to contribute to accidental harm. This is something I want to emphasize. In professional literature on preventing institutional abuse, what you'll find is an emphasis on staff training and staff supervision. I had a conversation with an expert in the field who's affiliated with the American Re-Education Association. He's an advocate for safe residential treatment. My conversation with him was pretty telling. He was telling me how important it is to improve staff training and staff supervision. And I said, well, sir, what I find interesting is that in all the literature on preventing institutional abuse, there's no mention of the vast body of literature on coercive social systems. And at that point, he said, well, Marcus, I got to where I'm going. I'm going to have to get off the phone now. It's really nice talking to you. So, efforts to prevent abuse should reflect knowledge of the potential for harm where multiple simultaneous factors are imposed. In other words, it's not enough to work or develop on staff training and staff supervision if there's no attention paid to psychological abuse and the overall coercion in the setting. So any legislation, my personal opinion is that legislation, regulators, law enforcement, they need to have an understanding of the fact that there's multiple factors at work here, and it's a much more complex. The psychological abuse it's much more complex than I think is what's currently on the table.